We have with us tonight Dr. Christopher Thompson, who served here just recently as our communication director. He now serves with the Breath of Life television broadcast there in Huntsville, Alabama. And we're just with him on tonight. We have had an exciting lineup. We had Dr. Fred Batten and Dr. Calliser, and now we have Dr. Christopher Thompson. But you do not want to miss next week. I am excited to be with Mrs. Pat Goff, one of our own, Southeastern's own. She is going to be sharing with us books that have been a blessing to our community, our young people. And my kids and son and daughter have read these books, and we are excited about that. But on tonight, we want to talk about Stop the Violence. You know, we just had a very horrific violent act perpetrated in California. I know some of you all have read this violent act where some officers were shot. You know, we live in the last days, and, you know, as a people of God, as we are looking forward to the soon return of our Savior, we are excited about the fact that there will be war no more. So stop the violence. We have with us Dr. Christopher Thompson. Tell us, Dr. Thompson, about this amazing book. What was your inspiration for writing this book, Stop the Violence?
Well, I guess I got to take you back. First of all, I want to say thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thanks for having me on. Much love to the SEC family. I still feel very much a part of my Southeastern family, my Florida peoples. And so thanks for the invite. You know, it really goes back to 2012. I had just finished writing Training Days, and there is some interesting stories in there, or there's an interesting part of the story where there's violence against a young black male, unarmed black male, at the hands of the police. And so the book deals directly with violence. And so Southern Union actually approached me and said, hey, listen, we loved what you did in Training Days to speak to the issue of violence, but we want a project that talks directly to violence in the inner city. And so what we tried to do was to create a project where we looked at the root of violence in the community, but then also the root of violence against the community. So it's really just seeking to explore what's at the heart of violent interactions.
Hey, listen, I've read this book, and listen, you want to get this copy. I want you to go to the link right now. We happen to have multiple copies here in the office because we have, as literature evangelists, distributed at over 1,000 copies, you know, and I'm being modest when I say over 1,000, but we've shared these copies for the past 2 to 3 years, you know, and people on the street, they grab it. They're gravitating to this book. And you're going to be blessed. If you got a young person, you want to get this book for your young people. Why? Because Dr. Thompson is dropping gems from people like Nas and Jay-Z and Drake and Pusha T, all these great hip hop artists. He is using the poetry found in the lyrics of their rap songs that really bring out the essence of the Black struggle. You want to get this book, go to the link right now, and you'll be able to get your copy, fill out that document, and we're going to mail it to you right away. So listen, in your book, Dr. Thompson, you in your first chapter is entitled Stop Snitching. Stop Snitching. I mean, listen, explain this this rap lyric by Pusha T. It says, break your heart when the man you call your brother be the same one that's what is that word? That is seeing in motion all the undercovers. All right, talk to me.
So it's setting in motion the undercovers. And so
Yeah, setting emotion. Sorry,
I want to
I
speak
couldn't
to
read my own writing.
yeah, I want to speak to the fact that a lot of times when we think about hip hop and we're thinking about rap music, we usually think of, especially within the church, we think of the basis forms of hip hop and the basis expressions of rap music. But the reason why, in dealing with violence and in dealing with violence in the inner city, we felt that it was necessary to explore hip hop culture and explore rap music is because a lot of times when we're talking about the inner city, we're really talking about the context that is expressed throughout rap music. So when rappers are creating when they're creating their lyrics and they're creating their music, they're not talking about Green Acres. They're not talking about the suburbs. They are talking about the visceral frontline experience of the inner city and of impoverished communities. And in order for us to really understand impoverished communities, we really need to hear from people who live that experience. And a lot of times when we look at rap lyrics, we're not really inclined to look deeper at, the heart of what's going on and the depth of what artists are saying. We just kind of take the crass language at face value, but when we look a little bit deeper, we see that there's more to what's being said. And what Pusha T is saying here in this text is that if you live a criminal lifestyle and you are involved in criminal activity with somebody who's supposed to be your brother, who claims to be your brother. And it's important to point out, Biggie Smalls says, man, this goes out to everybody who called the cops on me when I was just trying to get money to feed my daughter, and for those of us who went to Oakwood, you had a college experience, you were raised right, you had the Pathfinder and AY and Adventurers and Eager Beavers, like that was your experience, then you wouldn't readily relate to somebody who they came up in an environment where they didn't have as many support systems and as many resources around them. And so when they turned to a life of crime, it wasn't because they were evil individuals or because they wanted to do something wrong. A lot of times it was because they didn't see any additional alternatives or any additional options surrounding them. And so, there are those who are trapped in this lifestyle and all they have is, those kind of negative experiences. And so they trying to make the most out of them. And so Pusha T is explaining that, this is my brother. This is the only family I have. And we decided that we're going to do this together. But then I'm betrayed by my brother who's involved in this criminal enterprise with me. And he is going to then turn on me and hand me over to the police. And when we look deeper at what he's saying, he's talking not just about criminal activity. He's talking about betrayal in the relationships of trust and support. Can you imagine that the only relationship, the only source of trust that you have to be lost in a moment, right? But then the deeper side of that is that how is it that this one person that I trust turns me over to the one that none of us trusts?
Okay, stop. So what I'm hearing you saying, so Pusha T is like, yo, you my brother, but you turn me over to the undercover, right. So stop snitching, so people don't like to snitch. And that's because from your book, Stop the Violence, you talk about the stress that the Black community faces in the fact that the system in who the undercovers represent is oppressive. Okay, so this is what book Stop Snitching could probably trace its origin way back to slavery. This was deep. There was always been a commitment among oppressed people to resist and refuse to cooperate with an oppressive system. So that's the premise you're saying for Stop Snitching. Then you said African-American slaves would sing spirituals and field songs with hidden meaning and communicate their secret plans for clandestine meetings and plans of future escape. Stop Snitching is a contemporary form of resistance against an oppressive system. So don't snitch. Why? Because the people you turning me into, is really not out for justice, more so than to oppress me. That's essentially what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah. So, I know, especially for the older generations, they're going to see this and kind of be disturbed by it, right? That it's a really difficult concept to kind of wrestle with. But the fact is, when we think about the legacy of slavery, we hear these stories about how there were certain slaves who couldn't be told, or who wouldn't be told about the plans to escape, because they would then, reveal the plans to the slave master or the foreman on the slave plantation. And so there's always been this kind of tension, even within the Black community, that there's somebody in the Black community who might, sell us out, right?
Yeah.
That in the midst of this space where we supposed to be sticking together as slaves on a slave plantation, there was some on a plantation, the house slave and the field slave. There was some on a plantation who couldn't be trusted even amongst the slaves. And the issue is there's only one enemy on the slave plantation amongst the real enemy, and that's the master who's cracking the whip and being violent against the slaves.
Yes. Okay. So, in continuing with the idea of stop snitching, you gave a good historical understanding for stop snitching. It says we must realistically accept that a large portion of minority communities are unwilling to cooperate with the police because they are witnesses and victim to the historic and continual wholesale devaluation, dehumanization, and destruction of Black and brown bodies. You also said we must realistically, let me see. You said whether it was some cop who ambushed, who abused his power, a judge who gave unfair sentence, a public defender who didn't defend, a district attorney who was trying to make a name for himself, or a prison guard who used excessive force. Everyone in the hood knows someone who's been unjustly treated by the criminal justice system. Who wants to cooperate with such a crooked, unfair system? Stop snitching of resistance against oppressive systems.
Yeah, and so this is where the kind of, rubber meets the road, in a sense, right? That we have to kind of come to grips with what it is that the Black community is kind of pushing back against, right? And for those of us who have lived a privileged life, and I now, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, so to speak, but I count now myself amongst those who are privileged, because with a college education and a salary and a good paying job, there's just certain things that you are insulated from, right? But if you grew up in the hood and you grew up in an impoverished environment, if you grew up in a minority community, especially an impoverished minority community, then you have at some point and in some ways witnessed the abuse of power that is manifest in the justice system, and it's on multiple levels and on multiple ways. I remember as a pastor going to stand beside a member who had to go to court. It was a very serious case, and so I went to court with a member of mine, and I sat there and saw a man who had been charged with a crime. You sit there, you got to go through the docket, all the cases come up, right? And so this man is charged with a crime, and he got a stiff sentence for like a DUI or something. But there was a white man who had been charged with the same exact crime, whose case came up just before his, and the outcome was absolutely, totally polar opposite. And so if you've lived in a Black community, if you lived in an impoverished community for any amount of time, somebody you've experienced firsthand yourself, or somebody who's experienced this kind of injustice and abuse. And that's what really at the heart of this concept of stop snitching. It's like, we are not helping the system that is oppressing and abusing us. And in our heart of hearts, we really need to recognize that there's merit to that.
All right. So, Dr. Thompson, now for our viewing audience, I want you to go now, click on the link, and we want to make sure that you're able to get this copy of Stop the Violence. So snitching is a form of violence. Now, I don't want anybody to think that we are advocating that, you shouldn't say something if you see something. We all know that to maintain the moral fabric of our community, you have to say what you see, because it could mean life or death. But what Dr. shown us the historical baggage that we all carry as to why we don't snitch, because a lot of times we don't feel like the system that we're reporting to really means us well. But we don't want to leave you there. He makes a great transition. He says there must be some form of law enforcement to make sure that people maintain a commitment to our agreement about peaceful society. So, we all want to be in heaven. We want peaceful society. One of the problems, he says, with Stop Snitching is that it is partially responsible for the gradual erosion of collective moral responsibility to protect and preserve the community. Good point, Dr. Thompson. Stop snitching typecast anyone who cooperates with law enforcement as an enemy of the community, while at the same time protecting those who wreak havoc in our neighborhood. That was a good point. That was a good point, because if I don't snitch, on one hand, I'm not reporting to this, oppressive system, at least in my mind. But on the other hand, I am letting go the people who are tearing up the community. So something has to give. Speak for that for a quick moment. Then we want to go to your next topic that is called Stop Hating.
Yeah. So this is an important distinction. What happened with Stop Snitching? It just kind of morphed into something that was kind of like out of control, uncontrollable. If you are participating in illegal activity, it's disingenuous to rat out your partners in crime, right? Mm-hmm. But grandma, on the other hand, who doesn't bother nobody, and she doesn't cause any harm in the community. She is not part of any criminal enterprise, and so if someone takes advantage of her family or harms her, then there has to be some sort of a give in the way that we relate to the way that she relates to law enforcement, or the way that we protect her where she. Yeah.
So on one hand, we understand the baggage of, young people. If you're listening, we understand the baggage and what comes with snitching. But on the other hand, we've got to understand that we have to stand for truth. And if someone is in the wrong, or someone is being wronged, you could be that link to bring justice to a community, to a situation, to a person. So, we encourage and do your best to stand for the truth, because in standing for the truth, you actually help stop the violence, because there's a violent cycle that continues if people are allowed to take law into their own hands. Dr. Thomas, we got to move on. So listen, you said in your next title, you said Stop Hating. So Drake is a big time hip hop artist. He says stop hating. He says, I got enemies. I got a lot of enemies. Got a lot of people trying to drain me of my energy. I mean, that sounds like a bar right there, man. Talk about it real quick.
Yeah, so it's funny. I'd heard the song many times, but it was really in writing this book that I really could get to the heart of what Drake is trying to say. And at the heart of hate and at the heart of jealousy, it's our intention to sap some of the energy from the one who we feel is getting more attention, so to speak, right? And
And
so
this is violence.
I want to win. I want to win. I want to be successful. I want to do well. I want to be the talk of the town, the center of attention. And so this jealousy and conflict that comes from it is then our attempt to take from this person so that I could build myself up. And this is really where we were trying to get at what is at the real heart of violence. And it's this desire that we want to be first.
Oh, that's deep. Now that's a Christian principle. You know, that's a real Christian principle, and you bring that out in this chapter. You know, about hating. Here go top 5 things. You know, you had 10, but I pulled the top 5. How to identify a hater. Now listen. You know, for all y'all out there who want to recognize whether or not you got haters, you know, here it goes. Here's the top 5 ways you know you got a hater. Haters are like crickets. They are loud in the distance, but quiet when you get close. They can say it behind your back, but can't say it to your face. All right. Next, haters are always throwing shade because they want to stop your shine. Hey, listen, get your shine on. You know, don't allow no haters to throw shade. They want to stop your shine. All right. What's next, Dr. Thompson? You said haters are people who always have something negative to say. Have you ever met somebody that don't have anything positive to say? If they saying it about a friend to you, then they probably talking to the friend about you. Dropping wisdom. All right. Haters are people who see the bad that you did rather than the good. Now, hey, listen, these some top 5s. I bet a lot of you guys right now are saying, ooh, I got all right, Dr. Thompson, you dropped this one. This is what you said. You said haters are too simple to create a path for themselves. They just want to block yours. I mean, get your own business, right? I mean, get your own business. You know, I'm gonna drop this scripture, Dr. Thompson, then just expound on it. We're gonna go to the next one before our time is up. So it says James 4. This is what it says. Do you know where your fights? Talking about stopping the violence, because hating is a form of violence. Do you know where your fights and arguments come from? This is the word asking the question. They come from the selfish desires that war within you. You want things, but you do not have them. So you are ready to kill and are jealous of other people, but you still cannot get what you want. So you argue and you fight. I mean, stop the violence. Dr. Thomas, drop some word on us about this chapter.
Yeah. So the fact is, in order for me to really understand the hater that I see, I really need to understand the hater that's in me. And that's what James is kind of talking about in the scripture, that he's saying that what's really at the heart of this. And he's saying, you want what you can't have. You want what you don't have. And when I read that text, I'm looking where it says it's what you want. And so I really need to look at myself, because I realize that I have those same tendencies, that I want something that I don't have, that I want to bite off more than I could chew, like the old folks say. I want something that I don't have. And so I will almost do anything to get it. I'll fight, fuss, cuss, and contend with others just so that I can get more.
Wow. You know, listen, this is a phenomenal book, not only for young people, for adults alike, because, you know, we got a lot of hate in the church. You know, it may not erupt in physical violence, but it's spiritual violence. It's spiritual warfare. You know, the envy, the jealousy, the greed. I mean, we've got to stop the violence, you know, because if it's in your heart, then you just one step away from it actually being enacted. You know, hate is a form of death. John says, he who has hate in his heart does not have life, but death resides in him. You know, so hey, this is deep. This is deep, Dr. Thompson. Stop fronting. So you got stop hating. You know, you got the first one that we dealt with, stop snitching. Now stop fronting. And so this is what Jay-Z said. Your boy Jay-Z, he said, I tried to ignore him, talk to the Lord, pray for him, because you know the type, loud as a motorbike, but wouldn't bust a grape in a fruit fight. I mean, what is it with this fronting? You know, people be fronting in church. I mean, peacock proud, right? Talk to us about this, Dr. Patrick.
Classic line, and
did I do it justice, man? You know, I mean,
no, it's a classic line, and Jay-Z is in the song. He's talking about a conflict in a club, in a nightclub type situation, and the fact is that a lot of times when it comes to violent interactions, folks are just showing off. And it's like, why are you doing so much? And you're doing what you're doing because you're drawing a crowd, which goes back to Drake and the energy, right? That you feel like if I challenge this person in public, then it makes you look big. But he's saying, man, the reality is that some people are not really about that life. Like, they are pretending and they're putting on that they're tough and that they're strong and they're forced to be reckoned with. But in reality, that's not how they actually are. And I think that a lot of us, all throughout our experience, we're trying to portray a certain image that's just not authentic with who we are.
But this is the spiritual bridge. Here's the spiritual bridge on fronting. All right, acting like you're something that you're not. Here's what you say. You said, I know, Paul said, how to live on almost nothing or with everything. I have learned the secret of living in every situation, whether it is a full stomach or empty, whether plenty or little. I have learned how to be content. So contentment is really the answer to a life of fronting. And he says, I can do all things through Christ. So listen, to any young person that's out there right now, you don't have to front. You can be yourself. And a part of being yourself is being content who God made you, being content with what God gave you. Stop fronting. All right. So 3 ways in which you can stop fronting and be content. I'm going to give them to you real quick. Number 1, be patient. All right. Dr. Thompson said, I am reminded that every situation, good or bad, is not permanent. All right. Prayer. In every situation, I pray for faith and perspective to see things in their proper light. And last, productivity. In every circumstance, there is a test I want to pass. I want to be faithful and productive. This is how you stop fronting. You got to be patient. You got to pray, and you got to be productive. All right, be patient. You're gonna get it. That Mercedes is coming. You know, what is those shoes? Whatever it is, Gucci. It's coming. Stop fronting. You ain't got to go get the knockoff. All right. I got to go. All right. So listen, now stop killing us. I don't have time for this, but in this chapter, you just talked about, hey, the time has come for America to stop killing us. We see the violence. We see the gun violence. Stop killing us. And so you talk about the oppressive systems that have killed us. And then you also have another chapter that is entitled Stop Being Greedy. Now, I want to give just a minute or two to this about being greedy, about American greed. Just explain this, stop being greedy, because this is a part of the violence. Talk to us, Dr. Thompson.
Well, you can't have one without the other. And so I want to reach back a little bit and say, stop killing us. That chapter really tries to focus on the fact that there has consistently and historically been a devaluation of Black lives in America, right? And so when we're talking about stop being greedy, what the issue is that because these folks over here, because minority lives don't matter, we want to make sure that there was a larger piece of the pie, to put it simply, for the dominant group. And the fact of the matter is, history shows us through redlining and convict leasing and Jim Crow, there was a systematic and strategic effort to keep Black people disenfranchised and impoverished. That's just history. And so, and now when we look at what I call in the book a reverse redlining that we have in gentrification, we are seeing the continuation of colonization of Black communities and disenfranchisement of Black people. That why is it in America that Black people always lose? Black people always come out with the short end of the stick. And it's because the system was designed to enrich the dominant group and to use the resources and to strain the resources of the minority group. And that's why they enslaved Black peoples, because they were going to use, and the story of slavery is so brutal and vicious that people were literally worked to death. Why? For the benefit of the dominant group. And so how could you live with yourself watching human beings work to death? And it's because by them having to work to death, it was enriching the slave master. And the fact is that consistently has persisted throughout history. And so when you look at Bank of America being sued for unjust and unfair lending practices, it has persisted. We know that it has persisted throughout history.
Hey, listen, Dr. Thompson, our time is up. It's been an amazing time. This awesome book explores violence through snitching, violence through hating. It explores in this book violence through killing, violence of all forms of fronting, right? And we're just so thankful for this refreshing read. You know, I want to end on this note. You said, Nas said, the way to be paradise like relaxing, Black, Latino, Anglo-Saxon. So many years of depression make me vision the better living type of place to raise my kids in. So at the end of the day, what Nas is basically saying, he envisions a place where Black, Latino, Anglo-Saxon, all people of all colors can live in a place where you can raise our kids in. And we know that that place is heaven. Amen. Stop the violence. We are longing for Jesus to come where there will be no more violence. My friends, my prayer is that through the blood of Jesus, you and I, we both can meet each other there. Thank you, Dr. Thompson, for this time. Please go to the link right now. Get the book. We'll send it to you for free. On next week, we are going to be with Pat Goff. I'm excited about this interview. You know, she is no stranger. Her books are no stranger. And we are going to take some time. And I'm hoping I can bring my children on. Y'all pray for me, all right? Because they have enjoyed her books. Dr. Thompson, I thank you so much for your time. And this has been another session of Book It. We look forward to see you again on next week. God
bless. Something big is happening on November 7th, 2020, and you don't want to miss it. The Southeastern Conference Women's Ministries Department is celebrating its 30th anniversary. The theme is 30 years of excellent service. The best is yet to come. And the keynote speaker for this grand occasion is none other than Chaplain Linda Pennick, founder of Living the Divine Purpose Ministries. Join us online for a full day of interactive programming with powerful preaching, great music, special tributes, and so much more. In the afternoon, gospel recording artist Miranda Curtis will be live in concert, followed by an anniversary reception and celebratory toast. Registration opens September 8, 2020 to receive your personalized 30th anniversary gift box while supplies last, for a donation of just $30. For more details, visit www.secsda.org or www.facebook.com/secwomen. We want to share this celebration with you, so mark your calendars now.
Southeastern family, we are blessed to have one in our midst that has taken the resources of technology and used it to expand his evangelistic ministry. Pastor Arnaldo Cruz, pastor of the Spanish Pilgrims Hialeah Church located in Miami, Florida. We are blessed to have him where he has been able to receive now or have 100,000 followers on YouTube. Pastor Arnaldo Cruz, thank you for taking a new paradigm and using it to increase the kingdom of God. May God continue to bless you in your ministry. So now on behalf of our president, Pastor Gregory Mack, our Executive Secretary, Dr. Michael Owusu, our CFO, Sister Cherie Brown, all of the departmental directors and office staff, all of the pastors and teachers and workers, and all lay persons of the Southeastern Conference, we want to say to you, Thank you for being a blessing to mankind. May God continue to bless you in your ministry.